The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit GiveStarQuest.com.
Hi, this is Vanessa Marshall. I play Hera Syndulla on Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you always.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
You're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away. From movies to books, TV shows, and more, we're looking at the deeper themes and meanings found in the Star Wars universe. I am your host, Mike Creavey, still aka Old Ben. I'm back in the saddle. Haven't hosted in a while, and I'm excited to do it. And joining me today is Jeff Haecker. Jeff, how you doing?
Hey, Mike. Doing well.
Good, good. And Kathryn Laffrey, welcome back.
Hey, Mike.
And Thomas Salerno. Here we are.
Hey, Mike. Glad to have you back on the show.
Yeah, likewise. And we're diving right in here. We're just going to get right to it on Chapter 3. I guess they're calling them chapters, so I'll go with that. Chapter 3 of this hit new series, Maul Shadow Lord, entitled Whispers in the Unknown. And so this is exciting here. I want to just share the little synopsis. I always like to pull the kind of paragraph off Wikipedia or Wikipedia, one of those two, and share that. And then we'll get some first impressions from you guys. So this is written by Julia Cooperman, directed by Stuart Lee. And here's the description. Maul's followers confront the escaped Devon and direct her to Maul, who offers her tea. Talk about that later. Devon seizes half of Maul's double-bladed lightsaber and attempts to fight him. Maul hides in darkness and taunts the terrified Devon, questioning her path now that her life with the Jedi Order is over. Meanwhile, Lawson tells Two Boots what he learned about Maul and tells him to investigate Vario's dealings with the Pikes. As he takes some time to attend Riley's sport match, Lawson is approached by Daki, claiming to be Devon's uncle, who says Devon was just caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Two Boots and TDF officer Reb discover a confrontation between the Pikes and Vario's men over a shipment, only to be ambushed by Maul's followers, who destroy the shipment and flee. Lawson leaves Riley's match early when notified of the attack by Two Boots, who continues to advocate calling the Empire. When Lawson again refuses, Two Boots goes over his head to, is it Kleiss, I think her name is pronounced?
So. Yeah.
I think so. Straining their relationship. As Devon attempts to escape, Maul reveals himself and they fight. He reclaims his lightsaber before letting her leave. So that's the spoilers. People know that already. I should have said spoiler alert. But this is a really powerful chapter, I think, in a lot of ways. A lot packed into a pretty short runtime. So let me just go around and get your guys' first impressions, and I'll go in the order we announced you. And so, Jeff, what'd you think of this episode?
Yeah, so like the other episodes we discussed, I really like this one. It's the way they're releasing these, it's 2 at a time. So this is it's hard to stop talking about it because of
right.
You could have easily immediately watched episode 4 right after, and I did when they released.
Right.
So it's as a standalone, it's harder to it's like I don't want to stop, but that means they're good episodes. But I like the development of Lawson as a character. You get they're slowly peeling back a little, giving you little tidbits. You find out his ex-wife worked for the Empire or works for the Empire. We got more on his relationship with his son. It's kind of there's tension there. Two Boots is still great, just still wanting to call the Empire. I think Thomas said it last time. It was like he just wants to call the Empire all the time. And then on the other side of things, you get Maul and Devon, and Maul definitely is kind of following the path of his master before him of, trying to draw in try to gather an apprentice, and, not necessarily like the Jedi do, but definitely in a very Sith way of, trying to draw her in and bring her to his side. And it's interesting because it's like he's not completely wrong in some ways, but it's his intentions are horrible. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where that, how that develops. But yeah, no, and of course you get the awesome lightsaber fight, and just every series they do, the animation, especially for the fights, the saber battles, just get better and better. And they just and especially this one with like in the dark, with just you seeing the flashes of red just looks awesome. So yeah, no, I really like this one.
Kathryn, how about you?
Yeah, this was really powerful. I'd have to say, if I had to watch them in blocks of episodes, I would go 1, 2, 3 as just one movie. The way that this flowed from the second one worked really well. Got really dark and scary for a mother of daughters. And I would highly recommend people watching this carefully with the things that are happening in the world today, all around the world, especially for girls this age. Very important message to be seen in this one, to be aware of how subtle things go wrong. And you're in the dark very fast.
Literally. In this case, amen.
Literally.
Thomas, how about you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode, really enjoying this series. I'm actually pacing myself. I'm watching them as we review them. So I actually have not seen anything to come, and I'm very excited to get to those. I like how these episodes, like, they're short. They're, they're a little bit between 20 and 25 minutes, but there's like no fluff in these episodes, which I really enjoy. Like, there's so much packed into them, and, I'm never bored watching these. And I also like how, I was expecting almost Maul to be the protagonist kind of this series, but he's basically not, like, and protagonist, not like a good guy, but just like, like the main character, so to speak. But I like that we also have Lawson as like the counterpoint, as like the heroic figure that we're following. I think that this episode flows very naturally from the two previous ones, like Kathryn said. And yeah, I like how each episode, kind of like what Jeff said, does leave me wanting more of this series. So yeah, I'm very impressed. As someone who's not really a fan of the whole like Maul character and how much he's been in Star Wars, I'm enjoying this series, even though Maul's not one of my personal favorites.
I'm so glad you said that, because I was thinking about that before we started, because I know that's come up before. And I thought that, it's an interesting opportunity to get your perspective from that side, because I'm just sort of fanboying, all along. So we get some balance there. But I want to kind of circle back here and just, we had talked about this beforehand in terms of how to discuss this episode. And I think what we're going to do here is just kind of look at it, sort of the two kind of arcs that are interwoven throughout. But kind of discuss them in kind of two halves here. So let's focus in on that, that law enforcement arc here to begin with. And one thing that I kind of picked up on, I guess I should mention the very first scene, of course, which goes more into Devon and Maul and that setup, but we'll come back to that. Did you guys, I don't know if anyone else caught this but me or thought this but me. Maybe it's just because of me watching it in proximity to the end of Lent and beginning of Easter, more or less, somewhat close, only a few weeks later. Did you guys get the vibe that, like, it's almost identical to the beginning of the Passion of the Christ? I don't know. It's like the moment it came in, there's like the moon or the moon's whatever, and then it's like the night, and it like slowly pans down. It's like beneath. I was like, I don't know why. The very first thing I thought of, even though that, I don't know if, I'm sure we could connect that, but I didn't think about it too much. But I was just like, that's all. It felt like that same kind of pacing, that same kind of like, you feel the gravity of it, So I just thought I'd throw that in there. Yeah. But
with the off-tone ringing gong / bell with that image, you could tell that there was something really big and bad coming.
Yeah.
And it's just, it took you to like a depth you might not have thought you were going to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you say gongs, because both this and the last Star Wars TV series that came out was Andor season 2, and each arc began with a gong of starting the new. It's like the new year was the gong. So yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, it's interesting. They're bringing that in.
Yeah, the music in this series is very impressive, and really
it feels different
carries
too.
it. Yeah, it does. It feels different. And oh gosh, I was thinking earlier that like the music in this episode in particular reminded me of something that now I can't remember, and I'm sure as soon as we stop recording, I'll remember it. But yeah, where it's like it wasn't Star Wars music, but yet it fits somehow. But like
I got that same feeling with the season 7 of Clone Wars when they did the Maul and Ahsoka kind of arc. I remember being really affected by some of that music where it was just very different, but somehow right. But this is as different than that, and it's all Kevin Kiner, right?
Yeah, it's Kevin Kiner and his kids.
Oh, right.
Oh, it's a family business. There you go.
Fun project. Well, let me ask you guys, focusing on the sort of law enforcement sort of plot here and this more, kind of criminal underbelly and all that. Is there anything in particular, like, I don't know, I'm looking more broadly. I thought we'd start with this, how, in your guys' opinion, I just want to get your take on this, and I'll go the initial order again, starting with Jeff. What's in terms of your, tastes within Star Wars, are there anything or any, movies or shows or characters in particular that, this kind of thing has resonated with you before, or just, this comes up, I feel like, quite a bit, this law enforcement, the lawman, the Wild West, even in some ways, or like that, what about that really fits in Star Wars for you? Have you liked before?
Yeah, I mean, there's been parallels in the other shows to some extent. There's been, of course, the longest show is the Clone Wars and has the most episodes. I'm thinking there's episodes and arcs where Obi-Wan and Anakin go on the trail of somebody. Sometimes it's Maul following the clues and following the evidence. There's also the original season finale when the temple is bombed and they're having to like actually do a police investigation to find out who bombed the temple. Like that, it definitely was reminding me of that. Although, this is more like, that was more like political crime. This is more like crime, I guess. Yeah. Criminal underworld versus, crimes against the state. So there was that difference there, but yeah, I'm loving the vibe of and they're just doing all the, all the standbys of a cop show. You have the guy whose personal life is suffering, tensions with the chief, his partner's kind of going behind his back, and in just the addiction to calf. So you have all these like highlights of cop shows that are and I love that we're getting that in Star Wars, because it's the first kind of longer term one we're getting, because we never really had like a procedural police style show in Star Wars. Yeah. So it's cool that they're doing that. So yeah, no, I enjoy that aspect of it. It's a little bit different.
Kathryn, how about you?
Yeah, it's been nice. Because, we had a small taste of it, in Andor, which then went more like spy thriller. Mm-hmm. So having this police thriller has been really great. It's funny because it makes me think, you said like space or cowboy kind of thing with what we had with Boba Fett and
Mandalorian.
Yeah. And my dad was, when I first, showed him Mandalorian, he's like, can you show me more of that space cowboy? Because he used to grow up on, the cowboy movies.
We always said it's Have Gun Will Travel in space.
Right. Yeah. And I think if I showed him this, he's like, oh, where's that Columbo show? I don't know. Oh, yeah. So, but yeah, nice. It fits so well with Star Wars, just the whole aspect. And the one fascinating thing is having the robot police detective. Mm-hmm. Two Boots has just been a fascinating character, and he really showed an incredible amount of personality for a droid.
Yeah.
It's really unusual.
It's funny you should say that, because I'll get to you in a sec, Thomas. I was just going to throw in that, like, I think I don't know. I mean, as a lifelong Star Wars fan, I continue to be surprised at how much diversity they're able to mine with droids, because I'm at the point where I'm like, haven't we done it all? Like you had the quirky one, you had you got on the list of like all the different character traits, but like he's he's different somehow. Like as different as if he wasn't a droid, you know? And I thought that was, somebody said something similar about, like Peter Dinklage, as an actor, where of course, you know, he's, I don't know the formal term now, but he's like a smaller person, right? You know, but like he could get typecast in those roles, but has branched out to the ability of like, it doesn't matter what he plays. Like he's awesome, like in any role, you know, and I feel like that's the same kind of thing where, you know, you kind of get this idea like a droid, but like he's just a great, wonderful character that fits so well. So Thomas, I'll tee you up with that maybe a little bit and ask about like maybe characters maybe in these cop dramas. Like, is there anything that really stands out to you?
I want to talk about Two Boots for a little bit more, but first I need to interject because I remembered the music that this reminded me of. Okay, so the Dark Knight trilogy. There were a lot of musical cues, especially in the police cop stuff where they're doing the sting on the Pike meet with the smugglers, where I was like, Dark Knight trilogy. Like that, that kind of like, I'm like, where's Batman? I'm like, is Batman going to show up and bust up this
Star
this
Wars
crime
film
beat?
noir?
Yeah, like so very, very much like, or and also like from the Batman Arkham games, very similar sort of style of music, that kind of heavy bass. But anyway, characters. Two Boots surprised me in this episode because I like you said, Jeff. You know, I keep saying he's going to call the Empire. That seems to be his character trait. Let's call the Empire. But I mean, I feel like his motives are more complex than I've been giving him credit for. I just thought like, oh, he's a robot. You know, his programming is to do, you know, protocol. You know, like protocol is to call the Empire. And so that's what we have to do. But in this episode, it seems like, especially towards the end, now he has more personal reasons. Like he says to Lawson, I was almost destroyed. And he says it in a way like he's almost been traumatized by that. And almost losing a comrade on the job. You know, the other officer is shot and survives, but is wounded, you know. So now it seems to me like he has more personal motivations for like, you know, and he's holding it personally against Lawson that he's not calling the Empire. You can feel by the end of this episode that there's been a rupture in their friendship. You know, they even show this visually where the hollow photo of them gets obscured by all the stuff on Two Boots' desk, because by the end of the episode, he's been relegated to desk work. He's a desk jockey now for breaking the chain of command. But like you can really feel that it's like, you know, it would be like if like Luke and 3PO had like a falling out, you know, like there's, you know, just have this friendship between this human and this droid who have clearly worked together for a long time. I felt that was very impactful.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. I watched it again, but a couple days ago. I think when Two Boots, like, you know, when he steps up to Lawson and Lawson's looking at like the suspect board there. I'm pretty sure when Two Boots gives him some calf, but isn't he holding the cup too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like
he mentions that earlier in the episode, in the series, that like he likes to do it for like camaraderie reasons.
I love it, just to walk around with it. I was reminded of that again. I was like, and then you know, we're going to see more and more. I forget if it's in the next episode. Not a spoiler, but like they really this calf thing. I love it.
Although we know they're
addict myself.
Yeah, same. Yeah, we know there are droid bars from the Mandalorian, so they drink like lubricant or oil or whatever it is. So like,
yeah, although that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's okay.
I like it anyway.
Tin Man or something. I just like, you know, if you look carefully, like do you see like 18 cups like on the desks and stuff.
This time around, I obsessed over the cup. I don't know what it was. It was just. I mean, well, I was a ceramics major in college, so I'm looking at this cup and I'm going, okay, I want to try to make one of those because the handle is shaped very differently.
Like upside down.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, it angles wider at the bottom, and I'm like thinking, okay, how would that be to hold that? Okay, that could pour well, you know.
Yeah. We should, you know what? We should see if we can get them in the, I don't want to commit us to too much. How about the merch store, right? We'll look into that,
there you go.
Official, Maul Shadow Lord, police station mugs. So I'm just waiting for this, of course. Right. I'm waiting. The thing is, it's a kid's show. So but I'm just laughing because I'm thinking of the original Terminator, right? Same beats, the cops trying to figure, then they're exhausted and the loose tie and, Lance Henriksen, I think it's, isn't the chief or the captain or whoever goes over and just carelessly takes the cup. He starts sipping it. Lance Henriksen's like, that coffee's 2 hours cold. And he's like, yep. Sips it. He's like, I put a cigarette on it. I'm like, yep. Keep sipping it. I'm waiting for some, it's just it's that same kind of oh man, the police station. So,
and that's the thing. This, I think I said last episode that this would be predictable if it weren't so much fun to watch. It hits all those beats of cop show. And but in that way, it's almost comforting that way because with the Maul stuff, it's more unpredictable, and you really don't okay, you kind of get okay, he wants to recruit this apprentice and manipulate this poor girl, but you don't really know. His end game is revenge on Sidious, but you don't know what the intermediate steps are to get there. So there's some level of danger and unpredictability where it's almost like the predictability of the cop show tropes in the other scenes is rather satisfying because it's I know what's going to happen in this scene. Yeah. Whereas in any given Maul scene, I'm like, how's this going to end?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just it's kind of like you said, it's an interesting kind of interplay between the predictability, unpredictability, because they're so out of their depth. And Two Boots is not wrong that they are not equipped to handle this. But they don't know, they don't really know the whole Sith thing, or that he has the sabers or anything at this point. So yeah. They're at this point they think he's just a crime boss, and they're just trying to take him out and get him arrested or whatever. But yeah, I think we're getting to a point where they're going to find out that they are in over their heads and may need some support.
Well, I do want to. Go ahead. You had Kathryn.
Two Boots had the best line that was predictable, unpredictable. When Lawson asked him, "Do you hear me?" He doesn't answer that question. All he says is, "I'm sorry. I don't mean to usurp your authority." In other words, he's telling him the truth. I'm going to go over your head. But he's saying it without saying it. It's like, man, could you be more passive aggressive?
Yeah. It's I don't intend to circumvent your authority. And it's like, yeah, and I had the same reaction, Kathryn. I'm like, you didn't answer the question. Or I thought he was going to say, I hear you, but that doesn't mean I'm going to listen to you, hearing and listening are two different things.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys, because that's, we'll shift gears here to Maul and Devon, but I think it's really important to point out in this sort of the law enforcement arc here, because I think this was a really big moment. I'm curious your guys' thoughts on this. I wondered from early on, with the moment you started to see Lawson's resistance to bringing in the Empire, which they make no mystery of that. He mentions it over and over again, but you're kind of wondering, or I should say it's no surprise because he's from the very beginning. But I've been wondering, of course, since the beginning, why? Right here they are in this seemingly neutral planet. They don't seem to have any direct, obvious negative impact from the Empire. In fact, everybody around him seems to be Empire friendly. We find out in that car drive, right, that his ex-wife is Empire. You're like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. But what is it? So that makes sense. The whole thing of if their relationship is somehow fractured over this. But what is it about what he says, that key line, I think, if I remember correctly in my second watch through, when he said something to the effect of I've seen what the Empire is, or he gives that kind of little clue that there's something that's happened that he has witnessed himself that has sealed the deal for him. And his son doesn't get it. His wife doesn't get it. Oh, what's that? Go ahead, Kathryn.
Yeah, you got to finish that line. Because he says, I've seen what the Empire can do. And then he says, dropping his head, it breaks up families.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So there's something there. And then just the fact that Lawson has twice shown incredibly strong senses. And it's like, okay, he's either really, really good super cop and knows when somebody's standing behind him, or he senses something more and is hiding it.
He also seems to suggest that he suspects Daki is a Jedi. Because he says, like, how does he put it? He says, like, I'm pretty sure you're not, that you're also not a fan of the Empire, aren't you?
Right. Yeah,
you know,
I suspect you're not a fan as well.
Yeah, the way he says that, and it's like, because a Jedi on the run wouldn't be a fan of the Empire. So it's like, why is he saying that? Why would he, why would this seemingly random elderly lizard man not be a fan of the Empire? If this guy, and if I remember, like, Lawson was witness to what he did with the bridge.
The bridge, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and he said what, the first episode when they first see Maul's the footage or whatever, he says something about, a laser sword. I haven't seen one of them since the Clone
Wars. Yeah.
So there is some kind of, which wasn't super long ago, but a couple years at least.
So I wonder if he has witnessed the Purge, or like, part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be that, or I mean, it could just be that he and his wife had a falling out, and he blames the Empire for it because we don't know if it's because she got a job working and left, or there were tensions before, and so she's like, oh, I can get this job and leave. We don't know. So I kind of think it's a more personal kind of a thing with that, not necessarily like he's seen that they'll, he's witnessed the Order 66 or something. I think it might just be more personal for him, that he's kind of blaming the Empire for the problems him and his wife had, even though, we can see he's clearly married to the job, as we see in the scene where he goes to see his son's space lacrosse game. And, he leaves right when Riley scores, or right before Riley scores. So, I think it's, he's putting the blame on the Empire, I think, for that. But I think it's more of he should blame himself, and, he doesn't have a good work-life balance. And I'm curious to see if we'll get more details into that relationship over the course of the rest of the season.
I'm also curious as to what his wife does exactly for the Empire. Like, I'm sure there's all kinds of jobs working in like the civil administration of the Empire. I mean,
well, I just watched Force Awakens with my daughters.
Yeah,
I just watched Force Awakens with my daughters, and when they get to a Starkiller base, I love that scene where Han's like, "What was your job when you were stationed here?" And Finn's like, "Sanitation," and he's like, he's like, "How do you know how the shields work?" He's like, "I don't."
Right? Yeah.
It's but those little details of like, yes, someone has to do that.
Yeah.
Public relations. I don't know, something, but
hey, there's a Star Wars story we haven't seen yet from the cook's point of view.
Right. There might be one in the certain point of view.
Point of view. Yeah.
That could be.
Okay.
I don't know.
And I wonder too. I have this suspicion that maybe because there's also the cop show trope where the detective is ex-military. And I wonder if maybe Lawson, we used to be a Republic judicial, those sort of space cop kind of, almost like state trooper kind of people who were like, they weren't a military, but they kind of were. Like, they didn't have enough ships or weapons to police the whole galaxy, but they were at least something. And I wonder if maybe he had a brother or something in the Republic Judicials or something like that. Because he's very adamant that, like, he's like, the Empire's not like the Republic. Because when Two Boots says, he's like, well, we used to call in the Republic if we had something we couldn't handle, and they'd send a Jedi. And he's like, this is not like that, like two completely different regimes.
And I don't think it's spoiling. Like, I'm just like Thomas said earlier too, like watching these one at a time is hard because I guess what Jeff said about watching them back to back, because I forget he does somewhere in there, without ruining anything, he says to someone who I won't reveal about like the Empire isn't what you think it is. There's this constant reaffirmation of this, like, they're not the Republic, like you just said. Yeah. So, But let's shift gears here quick and look at, kind of where the whole episode begins, of course, and then where it ends, and sort of, all interwoven throughout. We've had, of course, the setup before this last few episodes of Maul, kind of hinting that Devon can leave if sort of she can figure it out, right? And she does that. I didn't watch episode 2 in a while, but it's like that force push basically to kind of create that gap. She gets out, and we pick right up there where she gets out. Of course, Vario's freaking out. How'd you do that? Yeah, that's he reminds me of some annoying side character. I can't remember.
It's bugging me that I can't place it. Yeah,
it kind of reminds me of I forget the character's name, but in Monsters Inc., the salamander lizard guy who's kind of
to Randy.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, he's a Randy vibe. Maybe that's it, actually. I just watched that not long ago. I love that movie. Oh, that's a good point. But of course, she gets out, but then it's not really obviously an escape because Rook and them are waiting. And then that way, okay. And so she goes, and Kathryn, I think you wanted to maybe unpack this a little bit because the tea scene, right? That Maul's there and waiting for her, and this quasi fatherly or guardian, this very, you use the word grooming, and I think it's important. You want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, because especially the way the show opened, where we have the moon and then we're falling down into the darkness, we find out that what looked like an escape at the end of the second episode is actually her going down farther in this lair. So she's gone from her prison to the dungeon. She's down a whole layer now. And then, to let them direct her where to go, I'm like, what are you doing? Freaks me out. But just the fact that she walks willingly into the dark with Maul. Some of that probably based on what she's seen, some of it her own attitude, thinking she can handle it. But it's the things that he says to her that are the scary traps. Mike, you work in education also? Mm-hmm. Okay, so as an educator, both public and private schools, and as a coach, also had to do training for how to protect children from these situations. Maul, the character, is acting out exactly the stuff we're told to look for.
Right. In all those training seminars and the scenario videos and
Yes. So, setting her up into a certain situation where, she can think she can pseudo trust him. But the way that he, especially this one move, he had earlier on told her the Mandalorians will fix your wound. They're good at it. Okay. Kind of showing he cares. The very first thing he brings up to her after he has her sit down in what looks like, and according to tea ceremony, should be a peaceful, trust-building moment. Instead, he threatens her into letting him touch her, and she willingly lets him touch her.
Oh, and even Kathryn, before that, when you said about right away, because he even says to her, he asks about her name. And she says, she's resistant. She goes, my name is yes, it would be proper. It's almost like this ethical, that's the appropriate thing now for you to do. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And it's those little constant twists.
Yeah.
And I've seen it happen to women. I know people who have been in situations where they've been lied to.
Mm-hmm.
They think it's a safe situation. They think it's someone who's out to protect them, or, hey, we have a common enemy. We can work together here. And it ends up taking them into darkness. And adding the tea ceremony touch to it, right away I'm going, okay, Shogun. Big time. And just reading about tea ceremonies, first of all, Maul, the host, waiting for his guest is a flip of how the tea ceremony should be done. But he does one thing that is done in traditional Japanese tea ceremonies, is he has objects there for the guest to look at. So he has his lightsaber laying there. You're supposed to, in the tea ceremony, let your guests come into the room, contemplate whatever object the host puts out for them. And then the host comes in and the ceremony begins. But tea ceremonies can also be used to flip power.
Yeah.
And so this whole flipping of power.
It's a weaponized hospitality.
Yes. Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I was almost reminded.
Wow.
I was almost reminded of kind of like the way he was moving the little cups. I'm like, there's a shell game going on here.
Yeah, I thought,
it was almost like like the way he was moving the cups around him, like it reminded me of the shell game. And psychologically, he's playing the shell game. Don't notice what I'm doing with my other hand kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't notice what I'm really doing to you, and, and it's kind of almost in a twisted way true what he says, like you think you have me figured out, but you really don't. And that's true. Like, she knows he's dangerous, but I don't think she truly knows how dangerous this guy is.
It's worse than she thinks
than
it is.
She thinks,
not better.
Like, Maul is always underestimated, both by viewers and by other characters, as just, like, muscle. And he's not, as just a trained killer. He's very intelligent, and he's, able to manipulate and do what he's doing. The other thing that I noticed, Kathryn, what you mentioned with like him basically threatening her, he says like, he says, you think the kind of person I am. Would you like me to be that person? I got like chills down my spine when he said that. That was very unsettling. Because it wasn't a direct
lightsaber, and
it wasn't a direct threat, but it was a very clear threat.
Doesn't he say when she gets a lightsaber, he just says something like, we can do it that way, but you won't
I
like
can
it.
work
I can
with
work with that too.
He says,
I can work with that too, but you won't like it. So
I mean, he's definitely learned from his master on how to manipulate and how to how to do this, and because the Maul we knew from just episode 1 was just the muscle, but I think canon, in the canon, as they've brought Maul back and now brought him into Rebels, because we see him do this with Ezra in Rebels to draw Ezra in, and then it leads to consequences. He's learned, he's definitely taken notes from Sidious, even if he was always kind of meant to just be the muscle but not going to be the real apprentice. He's he was paying attention to every lesson Sidious gave him. And definitely, because that's how Sidious manipulates Anakin. And Dooku as well, to some extent, maybe not as like Dooku seemed pretty ready to just kind of jump in and do it too. But
what's interesting, what I think makes Sidious the sort of ultimate master at this, because it just came to me now, is the, I would argue, that little twist, like the familial hook. Because the line that always sticks with me is when Palpatine, says to Anakin, "I need your help, son." And you're my boy, and I don't get that. Like, so Maul, it's not like a quite father-daughter reach. I don't know exactly what he's going for. It's not a romantic kind of thing. It's like more just, he always seems to be like master and apprentice. And because he does it with Ezra right later.
But it's different with Ezra, because Ezra's a boy. Yeah. He is using more of a female hook with her, because it was funny. I just heard someone from a Catholic group called Fierce. It's a women's athletic group. And they were talking about, if you look at what Eve needed, she needed to be, and because of the way she was revealed to Adam, it's a thing for all women, to be seen, to be heard, to be loved. So here's Maul talking about how he sees her. He's always going to her. His shadow's on her. And then just being heard, he's letting her talk. Unfortunately, she's doing the number one thing Eve should not have done, engage in the conversation with the demons. But then, and that's just the fact that he touched her the way he did. That was very much like, he didn't touch Ezra like that. It's just like, no, not like that. But the one thing that was fascinating, and it carries over from last episode, we had the shadows growing and getting darker and heavier on her. And now she goes from just those shadows into complete darkness when she picks up the lightsaber. And that was just, that just shows that, his mission was successful. He plunged her into darkness. Right. Now she's got to get her way out. And you see that panic in their face.
It's like Palpatine and Luke, take the Jedi weapon, strike me down, clear, obvious Sith.
Yeah, do the
tactic.
thing.
Do exactly. Yeah. And
I'm the bad guy, right? You're the good guy. Kill me.
Kill me. Yeah. And then
be the Jedi that strikes me down.
Be down. Yeah, because he says, you could be the one who kills me. And to your point, Kathryn, that thing of being seen, he says something like, I've seen your potential. Mm-hmm. So he's flattering her too, in a way, kind of like the Tempter does in spiritual warfare, flatters you, your intelligence, inflates your ego, things like that.
Well, and it's her destiny. She had a destiny that she deserved, like she was supposed to be.
You've been robbed.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's just that, it is right and just.
And it's part of me, maybe because I'm not a young woman in this situation, I'm thinking to myself, who would buy this claptrap? But it's that's me, an adult, not in a compromised situation from the outside observing it. But if you're
when you're 16 years old,
right,
it was supposed to just be starting and it's over, and it's
your whole now what? To you, that's your whole life, and it's my life is over. Only so and so here can save me or whatever, and it's just
yeah.
This is where he had an audible crossover of the storylines too. Because after this plunge into darkness, we hear the warning bells kind of clanging, and that crosses over into Two Boots and the other cop finding ambushing them and everything. There was the crossover of warning bells that fit both scenes.
Yeah, I was gonna say we have, if she didn't have Docky as kind of who had been with her since Order 66, we don't know what would have happened to her. She could have been found by the Inquisitorius and been made, she could be an Inquisitor now, because that's what Vader was doing, was finding these older Padawans who had a choice between dying or becoming an Inquisitor, and a lot of them chose to become an Inquisitor. We saw that with premiere with Barriss in the Tales of the Empire series, but we're going to see Inquisitors in the show because they were in the trailer. So not a spoiler for what comes next, but they're in the trailer, so they're coming. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see Devon's, because she's kind of faced with the choices of she has the choice of following the Jedi path with Docky, which is kind of going to be, you're going to be going on the run probably for the rest of your life, unless you can get so far away from the Empire that it won't matter. Or you can, you have this chance to do something greater that Maul is kind of promising her, which is, again, kind of what Palpatine promised Anakin. And, we see what happened to him. So
I'm wondering about the, so with their fight, of course, the culminating is she's getting close to the exit, and they actually get into a lightsaber fight. Obviously she knows, he knows, we know, everybody knows it's not an even match, not even close. And she's giving it her all. I was really impacted by those moments of just pounding the floor, her real furious kind of roaring, just the frustration of it. When you're just being toyed with, and how that's just, that's so, of course, wicked. But it's not really a super important point. I just thought aesthetically, we've had so many different iterations of the lightsabers in animation. I was a little put off, or off-put, is that the right? Either way, in Rebels, at least at first, with the really pencil thin ones. I thought that was kind of weird, but I kind of got used to it. And I was like, all right, whatever, I like these. I don't know why it's the Kylo Ren-ish kind of the flame. There's a real vividness to it. It really, I feel like it brings a real life to it, because it's not a stagnant kind of thing. It's just the energy is more visible. I just think it works for this show, but That was just a passing thought. But any thoughts you guys had about anything with the fight? It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Well, and I think I said in a prior episode. So in the canon, kyber crystals are living things, and to get a red lightsaber, you have to bleed the crystal by, using it to commit some kind of horrible act, or at least just basically torturing it with the Force to bend it to your will. And that's what we see. And I think that's what, like, we saw that, just to bring up that show, it happened in Acolyte. We saw it turn red, but so I think that's I think that is what's happening, is Maul's just poured so much of his rage into the crystal. And it's almost like more of a Harry Potter thing, where like the wand, like, has properties outside of just, it's not just a weapon. It's got a connection to the Force too. So I think that is part of it, and why it's like, it almost looks like a flame sometimes. So yeah, I think with Maul especially, like, they're, now that they have the more, canon has developed, and they have the more advanced technology, they can kind of represent that better than the Rebels. Like you said, kind of the really thin saber blades at times. But yeah, I think that's definitely what they're representing with it. And with the Jedi, with Daki and Devon with their sabers, they're another Jedi. They don't really do that. So I think it is a function of Maul's kind of anger. But just speaking of their fight, like, he's fighting her one-handed, like almost hand behind his back, like duelist style, while she's kind of using all her strength with both hands, and but he's just can fend her off with just that, or with just like kicks and leg sweeps and stuff. So like he's definitely toying with her, and it's feeding into her anger too.
And he took it a step farther, because as most men can outmatch most women physically, that's bad enough. He's also hitting her in her mind. He's going after her emotions. And to go after a woman's emotions like that, to just keep pushing her down, with the line. She's
most vulnerable.
Yeah. She's completely physically vulnerable. And then he goes after her with, you have no purpose, you have no hope. And it just keeps going after her mentally to the point where she screams, which, I've been there as a kid. You don't know what else to do. You're just going to scream about it. And that was just like, wow. That was really hard to watch, and it really, moves you, especially after she comes out of the darkness. She finally sees the light, and then overcome by the shadow again. So that constant fall, up and fall really played out in that fight.
Well, that's the spiritual life, isn't it? Up and fall, get up again, fall, keep going, And as long as we keep getting back up, returning to the light, embracing God's help, we can keep going and not listening, because Maul is acting through this entire episode as the accuser. He's an overtly satanic figure. The guy has horns, but he's also,
it's always Lucas's intention.
Right. He's always acting as the accuser, that the great manipulator, and basically saying, you're a failure. You're not worth anything. Nobody cares about you. And that's often they say in spiritual warfare, what we experience after a fall is the voice of the accuser tries to convince you that you're not worthy of forgiveness. You're nothing. You're worthless. You're a failure, and if we listen to that voice, then we could become a tragic figure, like Judas, who does not, who, at least in the context of the biblical story, seems to give in to that despair. Whereas, just reject all that stuff that voice is telling you, because God, it's never the voice of God. He'll never say that to you. He's the father who's already out looking for the prodigal son when he shows up. And one other thing, I think, it's the very last thing in the episode, but Maul reveals the true depths of his manipulation, because the first thing he asks of her is her name.
I was ask you about this. Yeah.
And then reveals that he already knows it.
Yeah.
So, sort of revealing kind of that, I was toying with you the entire time.
I saw an interesting comment about that he didn't say her name until after you hear the dark side whispers. And it was because he got her to submit so deeply to the dark side that he was able to get her name from her through the dark side.
He divined it, like, yeah.
Just makes it
worse. And he's also got all the Night Sister, magics and stuff that he's familiar with. So there's some of that too, probably.
I just thought of two kind of random things, a little connected though, but that made me think of as far as like the way you just put it, Thomas, like that purposelessness of just the manipulation, like of trying to destroy someone's sense of hope or their grip on, normality. Cause I heard that you hear some of the tortures, and, family shows, so I won't get too specific, but like just one that seems on the surface of it, like no big deal. But, I've heard from like Holocaust survivors that they would have you do things like the Nazis would have you, like move this enormous, pile of stones from like one side of the compound to the other, or build something only to tear it down and move it back the next day, like just to mess with you. Like, rip away from you any kind of fruits of your labor or sense of destiny or purpose or progression, and how absolutely sick and evil that is, and then I think of, diabolos in Greek, it means to scatter, like to throw far and wide kind of, that's what they do. I always describe demons as like the little, the little kid who runs up and just knocks your block castle over,
Right.
Which,
yeah.
Not to I'm not accusing any particular little kid. That's what they do. But like the idea that on that grand scale, how devastating that is.
Mm-hmm.
That just comes to mind.
And that's the Sith, right? I mean, like they say they're about order, bringing order to the galaxy, but really all they do is break down. Like, they break down they insinuate themselves into institutions and break them down. And then they break down people,
Yeah.
They get someone into their orbit and then relentlessly break that person down until, like you said, Kathryn, they just submit, either like, to be destroyed or to be, used as a tool by the Sith. They have no sense of any sort of human dignity.
Discarded as soon as they're not useful anymore.
Yeah, precisely.
Dooku, Vader, just,
And even not even the, Force users, but like we saw that in Andor with Dedra, like as soon as she messed up enough, she was thrown away. And I mean, that's just any type of, fascist, overreaching government, been throughout history that, as soon as you're no longer useful you're thrown away. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any, because we didn't talk about her, but Rook is in this episode and she's kind of the one.
Yeah.
And she's the one who kind of, because there's the whole thing that we didn't talk about either of her sending Vario to go talk to the Pikes. And so Rook is kind of like, where's she? Because we don't see her in Rebels or anything after that. So, I don't know that she's going to make it out of this alive either, because she's, will Maul throw her away once, now that he's got a new apprentice. So I think that'll be an interesting thing to see if that happens.
It does seem like for Maul, at least seems like the Mandalorian thing was like a flavor,
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, he's like, I'm not really into that anymore.
He dabbled in it, and you can see these Mandalorians, their armor is scuffed up. Most of them are except for Rook, most of them are very kind of interchangeable. Their armor is just like this dull gray, all the sort of life and Mandalorian distinctiveness has kind of been beaten out of them almost, they're just.
Is it also, Thomas, the Star Wars equivalent of the red shirts?
Yeah, right.
If I can dare cross over there a little, yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll get stormtroopers
you
later.
You weren't worth customizing.
The ultimate Star Wars red shirts as stormtroopers.
Yes,
so
totally.
Well, and there's that little like crossover Easter egg, the fact that Maul is serving her the same tea that Vizsla served him.
Was it?
Yeah, it was the exact same tea. And what does he do to Vizsla later? Well, I'm done with you. Chop your head off. So.
Gosh.
I guess revenge is best served hot for Maul. Because in this case,
So are we? So I guess coffee's for
expectations.
So I guess coffee or calf is for the good guys, and tea is for the bad guys. Apparently.
Oh no,
that's the big lesson, folks. Oh, we're gonna get so many emails for that now. No, I'll give a wrong email address at the end just to no, just kidding. Oh, well, I'll tell you what, guys, we're coming close to the kind of probably end of our time here, and there's so much more coming on this show. Let me just ask you, we'll go around one more time. Any last thoughts, things you guys are anticipating, hopefully without revealing too much, if you've probably seen the next couple episodes at this point, but I'll start with you, Jeff, again. What do you think?
I mean, of course I won't spoil anything, but I'm in this episode, I did like the line from Two Boots where, because he was going to chase down the leads and that that Brander was too busy, and Two says, well, it's a good thing I enjoy repetitive and thankless tasks. So
that's a great line.
So I like that line.
Great.
But as far as the rest of the series goes, I don't really know that I have any major predictions because again, I don't want to get into reveal territory, but I'm just curious where this series will end. Like, will it connect to Solo and then eventually to Rebels? Like, is Devon going to be his apprentice and be the one who abandons him on Malachor? So that's still an open question for me because she's definitely in that. Like, I really don't know which way she's going to go. Is she going to be Maul's apprentice, or is she going to stay with the light? So, and if she falls, is she going to have to kill Daki, or So I don't know. We'll see what happens. With that, but and that might not even be for the other seasons. But the other thing eventually I want to see is Maul and Vader face off. I think that has to happen in the show at some point.
You stole my idea, Jeff. Yeah. Is it too much to hope for Maul versus Vader? But yeah.
Well, how about you, Kathryn? Then I'll jump to Thomas to round us out.
I worry about poor Riley.
Yeah,
he's such a nice kid, and he plays ball, and same game that I guess Anakin might have played as a kid.
Space lacrosse.
Saw a little scene with the same little
Bodekin or something.
But it's just kind of broke my heart a little. I've seen too many times being a coach over the years of kids wishing their parents could see them score their goal or do their big feat, and it's like, oh. Poor Riley. I hope he gets a good result in the end of all of this.
Yeah. Thomas, how about you?
Yeah, as like I said, I have not seen the other episodes that are out yet. But I'm very excited to, because I'm just wondering how this is going to play out. We know what happens to Maul in the future, and getting to see sort of loose ends be tied up and empty spots be filled is like what's exciting about contemporary Star Wars. And Filoni and his crew seem to do a good job of taking those questions that we ask, and some we didn't even think to ask, and providing interesting answers for them. I'll always be appreciative to Filoni for the Bad Batch, because it had answered a question that I had since episode 2. What the heck happened? How did we get stormtroopers from this? But so after that, I've always, excited for any of these animated projects coming out of Star Wars. And this is, like I said, it's a very well written series. It's a very well paced and tightly plotted series. So I'm interested to see how it plays out just from a storytelling perspective.
Sure. Well, the only thing I would add to the Vader speculation is I did hear one online commentator make a point I hadn't heard that I think is the most direct connection I've heard, is that line in Rebels when Maul says, "I can't face Vader alone." And there's part of me that's like, he doesn't right now seem to me like the kind of guy who would say that with such determination. So part of me is like, I don't know. I would not be surprised if he learns the hard way in this season that he can't face Vader alone, because we obviously know, like, all we know is that he can't defeat Vader, you know, according to the way things go. But yeah, this will be cool. So, well, that's it for this episode of The Secrets of Star Wars. We'd like to take a moment to thank all of our patrons who make the show possible, including Ted K, Bruce G, Megan S, Kevin K. Could that be Kiner? Anyway, no, I don't know. I'm not going to spread that rumor, but maybe. Doyle and Dan A. Their generous donations help us to create The Secrets of Star Wars and all the shows here at StarQuest, and you can join them at GiveStarQuest.com. Be sure to follow The Secrets of Star Wars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast app, and on the StarQuest YouTube channel. You can find us on Facebook at Facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, on X, where we are at SQPN, or on Instagram, where we are at StarQuest Network. And be sure to get your official Secrets of Star Wars gear at SQPN.com/merch. Again, we don't have that calf cup yet, but maybe we can, we'll look at it. So, and now, of course, we'd like to hear from you, our listeners. What did you think of this episode of Maul Shadow Lord? You can let us know by sending us an email at starwars@sqpn.com, on our social media pages, or by leaving a comment on our channel on the StarQuest Discord server, which you can find at sqpn.com/discord. We have a spoiler channel and one that will be current with the show, so you can jump into the conversation wherever you are. Join us next time for Chapter 4 of Maul Shadow Lord, Pride and Vengeance. So until next time, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Wars, and thank you, Jeff Haecker.
Thanks, Mike.
Absolutely. Kathryn Laffrey, thank you so much as well.
Thank you. This was fun.
And Thomas Salerno, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mike.
And once again, I'm Mike Creavey. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.
Here's another show on the StarQuest network you're sure to enjoy, The Secrets of Middle-earth. Find it wherever you can find podcasts, or at sqpn.com/Middle-earth.